Civilization 7 will be the most approachable entry into the series for a very long time. Here's how and why I think the devs have chosen this direction. Around 15 years ago, on a dark weekday evening, my friend introduced my brother and I to a game that would shape the games that we play right until this very day. In fact, if he'd not brought it round to ours with the promise that this was one of the best games he'd ever played, I wouldn't be sat here talking to you today. The game was Civilization Revolution, and my friend, as it turns out, was not exaggerating just how good it was. All these years later, I still play it from time to time, but crucially for this video, I know why it was great, and why it acted as the perfect introduction for me into the Civilization series and strategy genre. So maybe you're thinking, what has this got to do with Civ 7? And the answer is probably more than you'd think. As my entry point into the series, what made Civ Rev so good was that whilst being a fun and relatively deep strategy game, to me it never really felt overwhelming. Building an empire felt full of possibilities. There was so much fun to be had waging war across history with some of history's most famous leaders. There was enough content and mechanics to keep me coming back for more, but all the while it never felt overcomplicated. And although games weren't short, they didn't feel too long either. Of course, it wasn't perfect. Stacking armies probably got a little bit out of hand sometimes, and the late game could feel like a bit of a chore whilst you waited to win, but generally Civ Rev was a solid and concise strategy experience. When we look at some of the key features we've learnt about Civ 7 so far, we see a few distinct themes. Think about features such as the simplification of the district mechanics, the removal of workers, and the reduction of micromanagement, with changes such as the introduction of commanders who can pack up armies to transport them to the battlefield, preventing the tediousness of moving them one unit at a time. I really like that feature. Now, from where I'm sitting, the devs are trying to make Civilization 7 a good solid Civ game with plenty of cool content and mechanics that keep you coming back for more, all whilst doing what they can to keep the game as straightforward as possible in order to stop new players getting overwhelmed. Just like Civilization Revolution did all those years ago, Civ 7 could be on track to offer a new generation of players an approachable and enjoyable experience. Another way Civ 7 is starting to remind me of Civilization Revolution is that it will allow players to enjoy a game quicker by breaking it up into 3 separate and unique ages. According to the devs, each of these ages can be enjoyed on their own should you wish. So players will have the option to play a game of Civilization in a narrower historical period which doesn't take as long to play from start to finish. Breaking the game up should also help new players not get overwhelmed with the sheer size of a Civilization game, which certainly happened for players who first picked up the series with Civ 6. Whether you're a fan of this approach or not, I do think it's actually hard to argue against the fact that Civ 7 is trying to keep things a little bit simpler and more approachable to new players than Civ 6 did. But why? Well, the one reason that jumps out to me straight away, and I'm not saying that this is the only reason by any means, but the fact that Civ 7 is launching simultaneously across PC and consoles next year has definitely played a role in this in my opinion. Civ 6 had a lot of success on consoles, but as someone who covered the game's release on Xbox, on PlayStation and on Switch, I can safely say that at first it threw a lot of new players. Remember, it's not since Civ Rev that a Civilization game has released on consoles, so for many, this was a first taste of the series and probably just got on top of them a little bit. To be honest, a console port was probably an afterthought with Civ 6. Perhaps it was just a testing ground to see if the interest was there. But with Civilization 7, this has been designed with the relatively new audience in mind, and the team at Firaxis want the game to cater as much to Civilization veterans on PC as it does to this new audience of players on different platforms. That, in my view, is one of the biggest reasons why Civ 7 is taking this approach, but if executed correctly, it could be a clever move that helps the game achieve success over many platforms. Now, I know not everybody's going to agree with this, and that's fair enough, and I can guarantee that some people will be quite the opposite. They'll be there watching at home, getting riled by thoughts of loyal PC gamers being overlooked in favour of the new console audience, but please don't. I honestly don't think any of the changes we've discussed in this video are a bad thing, or won't benefit the experience for the majority of players across all platforms, including PC. I certainly don't think it means anything like that Civ 7 is lacking in ambition, or that it will be dumbed down as an experience. Instead, from what we've seen so far, I think this approach will help the majority of players stay engaged with the game for longer, and see their games through to the end. I know I've said this before, I'm absolutely terrible at getting bored with a Civ game before I've completed it, and some of these changes do make me think that with less micromanagement and it being just a little bit more concise, I'll probably see more games through. Going forward, I'm expecting even more features to be announced in the near future that help Civ 7 be the most approachable Civ game yet. If you've not heard about the new Advanced Start feature, which will help Civ 7 do just this, why not check out the video on screen now to find out more. Thank you so much for watching this video, let me know what you think down in the comments, and I will catch you soon.